Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to the Sunday Night Sports Guys. It's Tuesday, and yes, we still call ourselves the Sunday Night Sports Guys. Trying to find a new name, but you know what? I really like the logo. T-Mac's son, Tate, come up with this logo when we first got this thing going, and actually, I think it's pretty good. I think it'd be great for branding, and I've even looked into trying to get a couple of T-shirts, a golf shirt, a hat with it. So I know it sounds a little awkward Sunday night on Tuesday night, but like I said, it's just too good. So, gentlemen, Troy McKenzie, Troy Blades, welcome back another week, guys. Bladesy, I understand a lot of curling this weekend. The girls had a pretty good finish. I think you're in PEI. How did that go this past weekend?
Yeah, it's that time of the year, Duke, just getting it ramped up. Usually it's both kids playing, but this week it was only Sophie because they were actually in a U21 tournament, 21 and under tournament this weekend. Yep. Kind of went in that and went to Summerside, and Sophie went undefeated in the round robin and in their division and ended up in the semifinals out of 12 teams. They ended up in the semifinals and lost out to a strong team from Fredericton there in the semifinal just by a couple of points. So pretty good for a team of 12 to 14-year-olds to compete at that level right now. I think that was a good showing for them. So hopefully we'll keep her going.
Right on.
And you got across the bridge, okay?
Yeah, we got there. We left Friday morning. It wasn't too bad actually. By Saturday, it was windy. It was windy on Friday night. Saturday, it came in windy. Yeah, but we got there.
Our friend's son, who's now playing at UNB. Their game against UPI on Saturday night got postponed because of the bridge.
Oh, really? Yeah. I didn't know that they closed the bridge. I hadn't heard it, but we were already over there. But she was blowing. I'll tell you what, that was some pretty good blowing right there on Saturday for sure. That doesn't surprise me any.
Right on. Never see it any different in the Maritime, especially as we talked about last week, Bladesy, getting close to lobster season, so we always know how the weather fares in the Maritime. Mac, week before you were off onto some family stuff. This weekend that went by, I assume not as hectic, but you are the only one of the three of us still maintaining some competitiveness of actually playing a sport. You still like to get out and face some rubber from time to time. How's that going?
Twice a week at least. My son asked me years ago, how long are you going to play, Dad? And I said, there's a tournament in Ottawa where you have to be 80 to play in it. And I said, as long as I can get up after I go down to make a save, that's my goal. So no, it's still, I still blast. And the RMC alumni team, every year RMC plays West Point, the American Army Academy, and we've played them off and on for the last few years. So I'm hoping in January I might be going again to Kingston and suiting up with a bunch of the former RMC players against West Points. So yeah, I don't know if I'm any good anymore or not. Experience the poke check. Let me tell you, the modern players have no clue about the poke check. So the poke check is my secret weapon.
It's good the old dogs can still teach some of the younger dogs some trips and stuff. Bladesy, Dale White was he down in Florida? Did I see him posting a bit about that?
Yeah, I did see that. They were in that, whatever it was, Roy Hobbs World Series, whatever they call it. A bunch of old guys go down there and play, and it looked like they were in the championship game, I guess, of whatever age group they're in, over 50 or whatever. I did see a little bit of that, so that's pretty cool. Be quite something to do every year, playing one of the spring training facilities, I'm assuming, or whatever. But yeah, that would be all right. Too bad neither one of us got an arm left. Between two of us, we can't make it from third to first, I don't imagine.
I don't think so. No. 3 relays to get it across the diamond. So
it's not good.
No.
Even thinking about it hurts my arm right now.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Anyway, well, gentlemen, Week 11 in the National Football League is in the books as a result of last night with Kansas City pulling out that win against, holding on to the win against the Chargers. So we're going to get right into, let me see, take this down here, and we'll get right into our power rankings for the week. Not a lot going to change this week, but we'll see why we're justifying why we're at where we're at. So, Mac, you continue to stay with the Saints at the number 5 pick. Bladesy and I stayed with, I think I came down, brought the Packers down to 5th, I think, without looking back. still picking the Saints. You didn't opt to take anybody else in that spot. Why is that?
Didn't see enough to make me change my mind. I like when Bladesy always says that neutral zone, neutral site. Who do you think? And I just kept going Niners, Packers, Saints, Packers, Saints, Packers. And I think the wake-up call from Atlanta is just what we talk about as Pats fans sometimes, how that loss happens and gives Belichick something to rattle the cages of the guys that are getting complacent. And I think that could do the same for New Orleans. And then we got to remember that Breeze is still rounding into form. I think Breeze, those lesser hits and stuff that he didn't take when he was off, they've got to figure Kamara out. Like, he's too good to be playing the way he is. And Michael Thomas, I mean, my God, they're talking about Michael Thomas as MVP, with all the quarterbacks and stuff. So the Saints just have that little bit more for me. And I don't like Aaron Rodgers, so that's always a bias that I carry with me. And so if I can come up with a reason not to include them, then that's easy.
Well, I thought Bladesy's the only guy that was a big Aaron Rodgers hater, so learned something new today. Blades, you went with Green Bay at number 5. Clearly, they were on a bye this week, I do believe. So you just felt not enough other stuff happened not to keep him in the top 5.
Yeah, I agree. Fuck Aaron Rodgers, as far as I'm concerned. But but anyway, sometimes you got to use your head, not your heart. But no, I understand where you're coming from. And to be honest with you, with that Atlanta win over Carolina this week, I think makes that Saints loss last week look a little bit, not as bad, I guess, as it did then. Yeah. It was a division game and things, and you got to allow these guys a bad one every once in a while. I could certainly put the Saints back in there after what they did this week, and like I said, with the Atlanta win. But the Packers were off; they were on a bye. They're still 8-2. I didn't think that was enough to knock them out, but the Saints are certainly breathing down the necks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And of course, their schedule. Actually, they got 1, 2, 3, 4. They each got 6 games left. They're in San Francisco this coming weekend. That'll be a big game. I think that's going to shake up our standings one way or the other, rankings. And then from there, Washington, Chicago at home. Chicago's starting to rally a little tiny bit, not quite where they need to be. At Minnesota is going to be the big one. That potentially could be a divisional type game. So, yeah, I pretty much agree with what you're saying there with Green Bay. Not enough has happened to warrant dropping them out of there. So at number 4, we all went with the We all went with the Niners. Close one. Kyler Murray was a bit impressive, Mac, in that one there. Took down towards the end again for the Niners to pull this one out. You seeing any? What's your feeling with Garoppolo right now? It's kind of up and down with him as the season's going along.
Yeah, I give him a little bit of a pass against Arizona because he didn't have Kittle and he didn't have Sanders.
Yeah.
So, he's. I don't know. He's look at his record as a starter. He's 17-3 now? Like he's winning the games, and part of Brady early on was just a guy that managed and didn't screw up and let the defense do. So there are definitely a lot of parallels. But on a team that doesn't have Gronk anymore, Kittle is right there with Kelsey and a couple others. And to not have him and still be able to pull it out, that final drive was nice. I got a kick out of that game with the I don't gamble much at all anymore, but the fact that they got that late defensive touchdown and it
sucked.
Pardon me?
Sucked for a man that had Arizona plus 10. Sucked.
Yeah.
Didn't lose at least. It ended up being a push.
Yeah.
But it should have been when they're up 16-0 right off the bat. You're expecting that one. But
absolutely.
As I've said,
yeah, I think San Francisco's okay. That defense is still really good, and it's like our Pats gearing up for the playoffs and having everything right. So San Francisco could be in a place that they could have everybody back and peaking in time.
Yeah. So, Bladesy, San Francisco has a very, very hard schedule. This is probably the last of a gimme, if you want to call it that. until they play Atlanta. And, of course, Atlanta's even starting to spruce up and look a lot better than they did early on in the year. No need to really defend why you put them at 4. How do you see the 49ers moving forward with that tough schedule? If they get through that and are able to, let's say, get one of the top 2 seeds, how serious do you then take them as a Super Bowl contender?
You would have to take them very serious as a Super Bowl contender if they get through this. I mean, if they get through this and still win this division, from what I can see, I mean, at Baltimore, at New Orleans, that last game at Seattle could be for the division.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, San Francisco, we've all kind of taken them kind of not as serious as maybe we should just because of the history and all this stuff. But, Arizona's not a top team by no stretch. But, to come back from down 16-0, like you said, without Kittle, without Sanders, and also without Breda. Yeah. So,
right.
I mean, they had, Mostert and freaking, I don't know, Jeff Wilson or whoever else they got in there. I mean, he doesn't have much weapons on offense. So for him to come back like that, it's not something he's really done in the past. I mean, he's won a lot of games, but he hasn't done it as far as coming back and 4 touchdown passes and all this stuff. So you got to give him some credit there. But we'll, this is where we'll see what he's made out of his next couple of weeks. Green Bay, Baltimore, New Orleans, these next 3 weeks is really, if he comes out of there even 2-1, I think that would be quite an accomplishment.
It would be. And I think when you look at him right now, and we'll definitely get into the Patriots a bit later, a bit more here into the rankings, Garoppolo minus these weapons that he has, you look at those, they're very similar teams right now, minus Kittle, minus Breda. The other one you were talking about, when you look at their offense, it's to me, it looks fairly similar and stuff like that. And then it comes down to the defense, but we'll let you guys argue that point here in a bit. So we all were at number 4 with them. So now we were all in agreement. Boys, you got to come up with something else. This is making it boring here. On some of
it was tough. It was tough with everybody on a bye. A couple of them were on a bye this week. Can't make stuff up.
Let's see, where are we? Seattle. Number 3, we got Seattle. They also were on a bye, so I guess not a whole lot more we can say with regards to that. They pretty much have a somewhat similar, but not quite the same schedule. I think they've played their harder games so far, Seattle. So moving forward, I guess the question I'll pose to you guys is, who do you see winning? Do you think Seattle's going to overtake the Niners to win this division, or how's it going to fall out? Go ahead, start, Blasey.
Personally, I think they will. I think Seattle will overtake it just because even though Seattle's still got a pretty tough schedule. I mean, they're going to Philly this week for an early game, for 1 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock our time game.
West Coast cross.
West Coast cross. That was supposed to be a later game, and I guess they flexed it back to put a better game in there. But, then they're home Minnesota at the Rams, which – at the Rams are a different team at home than they are on the road.
Yeah.
For sure. And then you got to go to Carolina. Who knows what you're going to get there? But personally, I think Seattle's a better team, even though they've got a lot of flaws too. But they just went into San Francisco and beat them. Russell Wilson is still better than Jimmy Garoppolo, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. Tyler Lockett being out hurts bad. I don't know if he's out. Is he out for good? I don't know. Have you heard what's the story with that?
I think he's supposed to be back before.
Okay. So, that's because, they don't have a whole lot of weapons as far as receiving to start with. I mean, Josh Gordon is there now, and who knows, he had the bye week to kind of get up to snuff. So let's hope he can maybe do something there. But personally, if I was going to pick, I would pick Seattle to win that division. But I think it's going to come down. They both got tough schedules, so we'll see what happens. But I will still stick with Seattle.
So you agreeing with Blasey, Mac, or do you see San Francisco somehow holding on to it, especially if they get Kittle back?
No, I'm agreeing with Blasey. I thought he was going to leave me the Josh Gordon point, but he slipped it in there at the end, so I was going to raise that. San Francisco's got great coaching, but I think I made a mention a week or two ago, just they haven't been there yet. And there's still a lot of experience, and my God, if we think of what Brady's done for us, if it comes down to it, I'm taking Russell Wilson over Garoppolo every time. Mm-hmm. So that may be unfair, and if San Francisco pulled it off, there's there's lots that they've done this year to indicate that it would make sense, but neutral site, I'm taking the Seahawks every time, and I even like them being able to go into San Francisco. I don't think that the moment would impact them the same as it would the 49ers. And my God, this year with the state of kicking, I don't know if any, like, I certainly would not want to be a team that was in a close game and had to rely on their kicker, because there's probably only 2 or 3 guys out there that I cannot believe. And again, I'm a guy with very limited athletic talent, but holy crap, I know we reference Bill Simmons a lot. We should really get
Bill on the show.
Oh my God! But they were on there one day talking about how in the world is it not possible to have 30 human beings that can't kick a football with either it's way harder than we all think it is, or I don't know. So I just, that's going to be a really interesting, if the season continues to go the way it is. I'm intrigued to see how many playoff games are impacted by missed extra points and teams forced to go for 2 and field goals, like that poor Chicago team. Like, get Kaepernick in there, trade for a kicker and see what you can do.
Well,
Trubisky could be done. What's the story with that, Trubisky?
Jeez, I mean, he's got to be, like, he's going to have to see some bench time, isn't he?
Well, they benched him at the end of that game the other day.
But
what's the story? Is that
Nagy's
just
come out and said it was for injury, not for performance.
Yeah, so. Saving his ass, but
exactly.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being a Bears fan? They traded up for Trubisky, and later in that same draft,
could have had
Sean Watson and Mahomes. And some. Holy shit!
Yeah.
I mean, I know nobody's got a crystal ball, but that just proves sometimes they make mistakes.
Oh, yep. For sure. Well, one thing about it, that the moving back of the extra point has definitely made it a lot more adventurous. And I think it's good for the game, actually, because I think it was getting a little dull, like it was almost automatic. I mean, rarely did you see anybody miss an extra point. Now, you don't quickly run to the bathroom once your team gets a touchdown, because that point is definitely not a given. And you know what? Kickers, they're starting to make a market for themselves, because if you're really, really good, you're probably going to get a few more extra bucks than kickers normally got. So definitely a good point on that one. All right, moving along. We're off of number 3. And here's where we begin to disagree. Hard to believe. Okay, so Max got the Patriots. I got the Patriots at 2. Bladesy, ever the homer, won't give in, not a little bit. God bless him. But we took the Pats. To me, Mac, even though the Patriots did win this weekend, I still, defensively, they made their corrections. Though I would point out, I don't think that's a stud offense that they were facing there. But they did look better defensively, a little bit more organized, disciplined, I guess is the word. They seem to be a bit better there. Offensively, I'm going to be honest with you, I am extremely concerned. And I think my concern was justified with the way Brady was at the podium after the game. I have never seen Tom Brady that short of a press conference and that discouraged. I mean, this man usually he's been in losses before. I think he's even looked better after a Super Bowl loss than he did with this one. So I don't see enough out of him yet. I'm still giving them with 1 loss. They are the defending Super Bowl champion. I'll still let them hold at 2. They did not show me enough to tell me, as Blasey likes to say, on a neutral field, who would win the game. And I still think right now Baltimore wins that game 9 times out of 10. And that's why I'm keeping the Pats at 2. Actually, I brought them up from 3 to 2. So I kind of give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt there. How about yourself? Why did you feel to stay with New England at 2?
I was close to switching it, only because about half an hour before we went on, I read that Isaiah Wynn is back for next week.
Okay.
And what we saw from him earlier in the year and what we expected, if he comes back, like that poor Newhouse, like, it's not his fault that he's been on 8 teams and they've thrust him into being the left tackle on a team that has expectations beyond any other. So to me, if Wynn comes back and that line suddenly changes, then though the Baltimore defense is strong, I like Brady's chance. We still miss Gronk, don't get me wrong. I like Sanu with every week that goes further. Edelman's dropped a few that you wouldn't expect him to drop, but I drop him now, buddy. Catch him when it matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm intrigued by Harry. He's big. He may be that what we hope Gordon would be at a fraction of the cost. So to me, it's really close. Baltimore, I've told you before, they scare me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind everybody blowing smoke up their ass too for a few weeks. That's totally fine with me. And if they want to think this is going to be easier than they think, then we'll be ready.
Well, I think I don't know if you can get by with that one, because I think after what they watched last year of New England going into Kansas City and pulling that off, as Skip Bayless likes to say, if there's one person in sport you don't bet against, it's Tom Brady, and especially if they have to come down with one game in Foxborough. I think Baltimore, especially Harbaugh, he's been there before. I think he knows what he's coming in there for. So, Bladesy, what's your thoughts on N'Keal Harry? I kind of thought they should have threw in the ball more, but I'm assuming the game plan was to give him what he was getting and see how he handles that. Do you expect his workload to increase this week?
Oh, it's definitely going to increase, over the next few weeks for sure. They're not ones to put those rookie wide receivers into a situation that they can't handle, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think he was totally hurt to start with. I think it might have been just to give him some time. I mean, obviously he wasn't 100% healthy or anything, but I think this was perfect after the bye. You know what? He got 4 targets. He caught 3 of them. Obviously the offense wasn't working very well. I think Brady was hurried or pressured or hit almost half the time, or it was between a third and a half the time or something like that. It was just unreal. And, but as they normally do, they'll pull something out of their ass, and thankfully Julian Edelman threw the ball better than he caught it.
Yeah.
And pulled that one out of the fire kind of thing. But
and good Burkhead was back.
Burkhead is starting to come back. I mean, that's huge, and they need a running game, man. Sony Michel, I don't know where he's disappeared to, but he has done shit this year. James White's always great. But he's the pass catching back.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get Burkhead going like he was starting to go, I mean, even Ben Watson started to. They put him in. He made a couple nice catches there. You're not gonna be able to rely on him, but if you can rely on him at crucial times every once in a while, at least that he can catch the ball when you throw it to him, I think that's going to be huge. No, it wasn't a great effort. Far as their offense on Sunday, and Baltimore just looked freaking unbelievable, to be honest, against Houston. So the only reason I didn't switch it up, I mean, I had the Patriots ahead of them. I figured they both won. I'm not one to try to flip flop if both of them win. I mean, that was the reason, but I mean, mm-hmm. Baltimore is definitely showing something, and like Max said, I'm glad. Actually, it's kind of a good thing. That they think that they're the greatest team on earth, and let's keep them going that way. But I do believe I really don't want to go into Baltimore in January, that's for sure. So, I mean, we only got a 1-game lead, really a half a game lead right now because they got the tiebreaker on us. So, just looking at Baltimore's schedule, it's not heavy. Nope. It's not heavy. They go into LA against the Rams this week, and then San Francisco at home, at Buffalo, and then they got Jets, Cleveland, Pittsburgh to finish it. So, there's probably a loss there somewhere. But the Patriots still got Kansas City, at Houston, which still is not easy. So, don't really want that to happen, but if it does, well, so be it.
Yeah.
Went into Kansas City. Nobody thought we could win that one last year either. So,
Amen, brother.
There you go.
So there's been some stories out there talking about Brady and his press conference, and that it showed a side of him that we don't often see, but some people are saying maybe that's more of who he is. Were you surprised at either one of you? Very surprised at his reaction? Did you expect that, or do you not blame him for being that way? Because I was very surprised. Like I said, I've never seen Tom act quite like that. Is he that discouraged with what's going on?
Go to Mac. I don't know.
I don't know. He's 42 years old. How many hundreds of these things has he done? I'm willing to give him or Breeze or any of the guys a day that they can be pissed off, And I mean, he had 14 incompletions in the first half, and it wasn't a great game. And he sets higher standards for himself, and he's frustrated with what's happening out there. So to me, it's like, yeah, you do it 2 or 3 more times in a row, then I might have a little concern. You come out there once and you're pissed and you don't want to stay and talk. You've earned the right. So I don't worry about it at all.
Well, everybody gets pissed at him that they talk, they answer questions all, correctly, politically correctly or whatever, and they don't really answer. Belichick never answers a question. And then now Brady comes out there, shows some emotion. Everybody's pissed off at that. So what the hell, man? I mean, yeah, it probably was what he really was thinking. That's great. I think it's good. You know what? He should have been pissed off, even though they won. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think we have to start really looking at the reality of what's happening, and I see every week him starting to do that slide. And of course, you're going to expect it. I know he's 42. But Belichick. That's what I think. That's always been Belichick's biggest gifting is he knows when to pull the plug. And I know as fans, you don't want to see that and you don't want to hear about that. But I'm watching it. I'm seeing and I try to say, you know what, the weapons aren't as good as they used to be, but this is what you got moving forward. Is he going to be able to pull out that magic that he pulls out every January? And to be honest, he's had one good game since the AFC Championship game. That's a fair analysis. He's had one good game, and that was against Pittsburgh. That you'd say Brady got that game. Other than that, you can't give him that credit. No touchdowns this past weekend. Man, it's
okay. So, but
it's
okay. So you say he's had one good game since the AFC Championship game. So since that time, he's 10-1 and won a Super Bowl.
True.
So
I know. It's a hard.
Yes, we all see he's not the same Tom Brady as he was 5 years ago or whatever. I mean, nobody really thought he was ever going to be.
No.
But he's smart enough. The thing is, and that's what people don't understand, is he's smart enough that he does what they give him. Like he does what it takes to win the game. Yeah. He doesn't have to be 400 yards passing and 4 touchdowns every game. He does that's him. That's why he gets all those incompletions. He throws it into the ground. They say he's thrown it into the ground. He's like, yeah, he's thrown it in the ground because he doesn't want to take the sack, and 2, he doesn't want to throw an incompletion or an interception. Yeah. And so he throws it into the ground. He makes himself look idiotic. I mean, if you look at it from outside, he looks dumb throwing it that way, but it's actually a smart move and actually helps them win the game.
And I think we talked about it before we came on about Phillip Rivers last night. How much better would the Chargers have been if Phillip Rivers had channeled some inner Brady there and not thrown some of those passes? So
threw some of those away.
To me, I agree with what you're saying, Duke, about the weapons, but I remember throwing the Troy Browns and others over the years that to me, it's the line. And this is the worst offensive line we've had in quite a while. So if in 2 weeks, Duke, it still looks the same, then I'll join you. Until then, I don't know. They can't run the ball. You can't, the team. If I'm playing defense against the Pats right now, it's pretty easy. That offensive line comes back. I don't know what Sony Michel is. I want him to be what he is when he's good. Mm-hmm. But if he's not, then I'm happy to go back to White and Burkhead and Brandon Bolden and just the 12-headed monster and hammer away and just know that line's going to give him the time to do this stuff. Because I think over the years, well, I drink the Scarnecchia Kool-Aid, and I'm not going to say it again. People watching have heard me say it enough. So give it a little more time, Duke. You're going to be okay.
So here's a fair question, because you often bring up Isaiah Wynn. Does a 7th Super Bowl hinge on the health of Isaiah Wynn? Because we know what he's getting on the left side. If Wynn don't come back, that's not getting a whole. It might get a tad. Like you, Scarnecchia is legendary at managing an offensive line. But you know what? Just as you say about Brady, you can only manage what you got to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd say if we don't get offensive line improvement, it will be the coaching. Belichick's one of his best performances because it will be the defense It'll be the special teams. It'll be Josh McDaniels having Edelman throw a pass. It'll be all of that because they will be overcoming something that has been a strength for our team for so many years. So if win doesn't work out and we win another one, my God, that's going to be brilliant. But I have faith that this guy can't get hurt again. Like, my God, give us 8 good weeks and let's see what happens.
It'll be Sanu throwing the touchdown pass the next time.
Yes, true enough.
He can throw it too. He's done it before. So they got a couple of guys back there that can throw the ball.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, when they had the Kaepernick tryouts, they were saying that the Patriots were going to send somebody there to watch it. Until I caught myself, I'm like, holy shit, is Belichick considering picking up Kaepernick? We go into a wishbone or some foolish thing?
Ain't gonna have this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ain't gonna have this year. Oh,
man. So some of the other teams I wanted to just quickly catch up on to. And obviously, the biggest story that started off the whole weekend was last Thursday night, the whole Myles Garrett situation. We'd be amiss not to bring that up. People have been saying, here you're talking about football and the biggest event of the weekend. You don't even bring it up, Duke. What's going on? Myles Garrett. Blades, you ever see anything like that before in your life? I've seen some stupidity in hockey. I see some brawls. I'm sure Matt can relate a few of them too, but that was one for the ages, that one. Wow.
Like, have you lifted one of those professional football helmets? You know how heavy those fucking things are?
I've never
holy, well, man, they're heavy. That ain't a hockey helmet. That's not a ski helmet or something. Those things are heavy. That's like throwing a boulder at somebody. Yeah. I mean, he was lucky that he just got him on the bottom of that helmet instead of like square on. I mean, if he'd have hit him square on with the side of that helmet into the side of the head, I don't know what would have happened to old Mason Rudolph. There would have been nothing left of him. But no, it was a shame. I mean, I know everybody kind of loses their head at times, but it definitely, just the whole thing. 8 seconds left, down 2 touchdowns. What was the point? They're throwing a little screen pass or something. Like, what was the point of that? And I know, they got in a little skirmish on the ground, but I mean, there's no excuse for Myles Garrett and what he did there. Yeah. And and all the ex-football players, all the current football players, nobody came to his aid, not even his own team, on Twitter or wherever. And everybody said, you know what, this guy's got to go away for a while for this because you cannot put up with this. This is crazy. And you know what? The NFL did what they had to do, and they've suspended him for the rest of the year. That's good. And you know what? Hopefully we won't see that again.
Yeah. Anything you want to add with that, Mac?
No, I'd say even the NFL couldn't screw this one up. They often find ways to self-inflict wounds, but it just I think, like Bladesy said, when we look back at many of the situations like this in sports, it's not at the end of a game that's already over. That was the part I kept coming back to. It's like, what happened during the game, or what did Rudolph say? Because Rudolph said something to make this guy do that at the state when the game is won. Like, so we'll never know, and it doesn't really matter. I feel for it's an idiotic. He deserves everything that comes, and I just hope he's an incredibly talented player that it's not what he's remembered for.
Right.
But he deserves everything that comes to him, and poor Cleveland can't get out of their own way this year. Even when they're coming back and getting wins, this happens. So
right on.
Well, that's the thing too. That Cleveland now 4-6. I know, they were one of the teams everybody loved there to start the year, but 4-6, and they don't have a tough schedule coming up. I mean, they certainly. 9-7 is going to get you a wild card in this AFC. Yep. They could still lose another game, get to 9-7, but man, to lose that guy. That's really, that's what nobody's really talking about. That this is really hurting them. They've got a chance to make a little run here, and still got a shot at the playoffs.
How about let's say Minnesota here for a minute, because I thought that was a pretty big win this weekend. I mean, Denver's not what Denver used to be, but Denver did come out, get a bit of a lead on Minnesota, and Kirk Cousins, engineers the comeback on that. They definitely got some offensive weapons there that can make you lose some sleep for sure. How about the Vikings? What are you thinking about them? They're only a game, I think, behind the Packers, and I think they still have to play each other again. Yes, in Green Bay, or is that at Minnesota?
Oh, at Minnesota, actually.
At Minnesota. So, Geez, the Vikings, I don't know, boys. Could they be a bit of a dark horse there in the NFC, do you think? Or does the Purple People Eaters always meet their demise like they historically generally do?
Well, I think that was a huge win. I mean, a huge comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit! That first half was just against Denver, against I don't know one of the Allens, I guess one of the quarterback Allens in the league this year. Murray. I mean, nobody expected that, right? I mean, Minnesota didn't have Thielen, which that's huge. Yeah. But for them to come back, I mean, Diggs, I think I got Diggs on a couple fantasy teams, Duke, and I got back from PEI about halftime, and I think Diggs had 0 points at that point. He ended up with like, I don't know, 30. So he certainly came through. But I mean, they've got a good defense. They got Dalvin Cook, who's one of the top running backs in the league, obviously. Probably not the greatest wide receiving core without Thielen, but with Thielen in there, Thielen and Diggs, Kyle Rudolph still decent, not what he used to be, but I mean, Kirk Cousins is having a great year. People aren't talking about Kirk Cousins, but he's having a good year. So I think they've still got a shot to take out the Packers for that division, definitely.
Yeah.
And they've got some experience in the playoffs, obviously. So they've been there the last couple of years and been close at least. So no, definitely don't want to count them out.
So Mac, what do you think about the Oakland Raiders? Had the Chiefs lost last night, that AFC West gets pretty interesting. But nonetheless, they didn't. They are now, 2 games up on Oakland? One game.
One, I think.
One. And they got the bye this week here in week 12.
Half a game, actually. Half a game. If Oakland wins this week, they tie.
They're tied.
Yeah, because Oakland's already had their...
And then they're home to Oakland the following week. Then they have New England. Then they're home. Geez, they got like 4 home games in a row, the Chiefs. Can't be.
Three
in
a row, then at Chicago, then at home the last game.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. No, they're at New England. No, they go Oakland at New England,
3
Denver
and 2 for home and away. Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
So Oakland, how big of a surprise has that one been? Anybody expect
pretty big.
This?
Yeah. No, I think everybody was enjoying the Gruden collapse and demise and all the off-field stuff, but he's doing what, like, he put his faith in Carr, and Carr's delivering. Waller looks like a real find at tight end. The running back, oh my God, like Jacobs is doing what we wanted Michelle to do, and there were a lot of people high on him in the draft, and he's certainly showing why. So offensively, I think they're fine. Yeah. I just don't know, like when Mac left the defense, and like their defense is playing well enough, and they either drafted well, and I just don't know enough about it, or they knew they had more depth. But I think Gruden's quite enjoying this, and I'd much rather have Oakland than KC as in our way in the playoffs. So no, I think they in this AFC that Blasey was mentioning, how there's going to be a 9-7 team. Oakland should be right now, barring some kind of collapse. They should be well set up for it. And I don't know, Kansas City, watching second half of that game last night, they still make too many mistakes.
Yep.
Without Tyreek Hill in there, Hardman's nice, but Mahomes doesn't even. Some of the magic is gone. I don't know why. I kept being surprised. San Diego's Ingram and Bosa were really strong, and I'm ranting now. But yes, I think Oakland will be just fine.
The last one I want to just kind of touch on before we close out our NFL segment is the Buffalo Bills. It's been a bit of a change there in Buffalo. If we weren't Pat fans and we're just looking, or if we're looking at it objectively, real good season going on in Buffalo for the Bills in that. Blasey, they got enough to hold on to a playoff spot, do you think, or just not in the cards this year, maybe next year?
No, they still got enough to hold on to a playoff spot, I do believe. They definitely they started out hot, obviously, and their defense was unbelievable. I think it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors, I do believe. Yeah. I think Josh Allen's a great fantasy quarterback, not really a great NFL quarterback yet.
Yeah.
Throws a lot of too many interceptions. I mean, but he can run the ball.
That's the thing. The last 3 weeks, though, he hasn't thrown an interception.
Well, then there you go.
If this is his trajectory, if this is the trajectory of Allen, that he's now managing it better and doing all the other stuff, then that changes the script.
That helps. That helps for sure. I mean, their defense is still good. You know, it's like one of those things, you know, defense doesn't take a night. You know, you might have a bad day in offense, but the defense is usually pretty consistent. The running game still, I mean, Frank Gore. He's freaking going to do what he does.
Unbelievable, eh?
Oh, man. Like, unreal. Like, you know, we talk about Brady playing at 42, but Frank Gore playing at whatever he is, 36 or something, you know, is still doing this is, you know, quite impressive. I do believe, I mean, Buffalo's 7-3, right? 7-3?
Yeah.
7-3. You know what? What do they got here?
Three home, three on the road. They got Denver, Baltimore, and the Jets at home. On the road to Dallas, Pittsburgh, and New England.
So that's not an easy schedule for sure.
3-3?
Not an easy. I would say
3-3
gets them in. 3-3 gets them in. So if they can go 3-3 on that, you know, they got Denver and the Jets at home. They've got to win those. And then they've got to either beat Baltimore at home or win one of those road games, which, you know, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's probably not at New England. You know, at Dallas is winnable. I think at Pittsburgh is winnable. I mean, they're definitely winnable games.
Yeah.
So, they can certainly, you know, could be Oakland, Buffalo for the 2 wild cards. Is that what we're looking at here? I mean,
could possibly.
I don't know.
And I'm living in Buffalo territory here, so I obviously hear a lot about it. And their defense reminds me of the Pats defense of recent years, that the bend but don't break.
Yeah.
Like they teams can move on them, but boy, once you get to that 30, they seem to just and punching it in is hard. And that's a defense that'll, if they're like, it's got to be Allen, because their wide receivers are like, Beasley's a poor man's Edelman.
John Brown's having a great year, though, huh? John Brown.
He is. Man.
Geez, he had 40 points this weekend on fantasy. Did I see that right?
I got him on a couple teams.
40
actually.
points.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. But no, I mean, they're going to be fighting. I mean, we say 9-7. You know, it might be 10-6. Really, you might have to get there, depending on. I mean, what do we got? We got Buffalo. We got Oakland. We got Houston, Indy. Whoever doesn't win the division out of that. So I mean, you still got some teams there that are fighting for that wild card. So Indy's obviously had some injury problems. You know, Brissett out, now he's back, but now T.Y. Hilton's been out for a couple games. I mean, now Marlon Mack's going to be out, so Indy's in a little bit of trouble there. Yeah. But
some hurt going on there. I'm hoping Buffalo goes at least 10-6, so we can stop hearing all the nonsense about New England plays in such a bad freaking division, which is true. But maybe this year we can have a little reprieve and
everybody says that, dude, but they don't look at the numbers, man.
I know, but that's how it works.
AFC East is 8-4 against the NFC East this year so far. There's 4 games left. So, I mean, worst they're going to be is 500. So, yeah. I mean, I know the NFC East is not as great as it used to be, with the Giants and Washington, but they never ever talk about any of the other divisions. It's always just the AFC East. We're going to have to get some numbers out there.
Well, that's how it is, Blasey, when you're hated. So guess what? We are living the New York Yankee stigma from years ago, how we used to hate on the Yankees. So guess what? It's come around to us. It's actually a good feeling. I kind of like being in this place. It's nice to be in this.
Isn't that the best feeling?
Best feeling in the world.
Nobody, if nobody cares about you, they're not going to hate you.
Right on. All right, gentlemen, that wraps us up on the NFL Week 11 in the books. We will definitely be back with Week 12 next week. So one other story I want to touch on with you guys around is in Major League Baseball, in which the Houston Astros are under investigation for cheating as in stealing signs with the use of technology. And Houston, talk of the town in baseball these days, especially after the whole, incident with their assistant general manager and his what the hell's the closer's name again? Osuna comment that got him into hot water and fired. Now they're being investigated for cheating. Here's the thing. What is acceptable? I don't know if you call it cheat. I don't know how you call it. What is acceptable in sport in bending the rules? Mac, you played a lot of hockey. You follow hockey extensively. What have been some things in hockey that you try to do to get an edge but might be regarded as borderline cheating? Blazy, I'll let you think on other aspects of baseball.
Yeah, I think a couple quick comments. I know the things that piss off other teams when you're playing a game would be those changes late, especially in, I think of men's league now when the clock is running and just before the guys make a line change. That's not cheating, but playing with the rules. It's me adjusting a toe strap to get the guys an extra break. That's the low level stuff. I mean, when I think of the higher level stuff, I think of, as a Habs fan, the last time we won a cup against the Kings and Marty McSorley with the illegal blade, and the Habs knowing about it and calling him on it and then scoring on the power play, and that was kind of one of several turning points in that series. So curved sticks are the ones that I think of the most. Cheating in the NHL, I can't really come up with anything else in that game. I mean, you could... Having gone to a Habs practice, if you went to a Habs practice and watched it, you'd see that Shea Weber shoots the puck really hard and that they work on power plays and penalty kills a lot. But I don't know what you could – it's such a fluid game that I don't know. Other than the curving of the stick, I couldn't really come up with anything else I could think of that would be a way to cheat in hockey.
Yeah, I don't even think you could use and of course, being Patriot fans, we have to bring this out because – can't bring up cheating on other teams and not bring up the fact of Spygate. We won't take Deflategate because I think that was just a crock of crap to try to just whatever. But Spygate has proven to be pretty hard to defend and stuff. So I don't know. You were at these practices. Is there anything that an opposing team could come in and film on that would make a difference, you think, with hockey? Would that matter or no?
I don't think so. I guess you could, when they're working on the power play, you could come and see if they're trying to I don't know, instead of going to Weber, trying to go down low differently, something like that would give you. But other than those the rest of the game 5-on-5, it's such a different sport. It's so fast. So I don't know. It's be like football and baseball. The two that to me tend to lend themselves more to cheating than basketball and hockey, that just by nature of the pace of the game, the lack of stoppages like football and baseball have, that just harder.
Now, Blazy, in this particular situation with the Astros, what they're being accused with is the use of cameras in center field. And we had talked before coming on the air. I don't know if you did see the footage of that, where Evan Gattis is the batter, and when the catcher's putting down signs for fastballs, you don't hear nothing. But when signs were given for a changeup, you could hear bang bang in the background as if they were beating on a garbage can and things like this. Now, you've umpired in AAA and stuff like that in the minors and stuff. Were you ever in a position where you saw potentially there was some cheating, or did somebody come, a manager or a batter or a catcher, anybody of any sort kind of say to you, hey, you got to keep your eye out for this because I think they're trying to pull a fast one? Did you see any of that in the minor leagues?
Well, the only thing, not as far as stealing signs. I mean, there was no real stealing signs as far as technology goes back then, as far as I know. It would be more like scuffing a baseball or, putting some kind of a Vaseline or jizz or something on a baseball and make it go. So that would be the only thing, or most that would be most of the cheating. Right. I mean, baseball is just, shit. They've been cheating since baseball started, right? I mean, you had spitball. I mean, spitball was actually legal until 1920 or something. But, as far as sign stealing, obviously sign stealing is part of the game as well, as far as I'm concerned. That's why, if there wasn't any sign stealing, you wouldn't have to throw down 4 or 5 signs when there's somebody on second base, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, same as football when they talk about sign stealing and things. But, as far as just using the technology to do it, I mean, there is I don't think there's any doubt that they've done it. They did it. I mean, these videos are proof beyond any doubt as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The worst part about it is that they had a little incident with the Red Sox and Yankees about Apple Watches and things like that, and they cracked down on it and told all the teams that there will be no more cheating with technology, and then these guys did it anyway. So I think that's the thing that's going to hurt them. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Duke, and I mean, I wish I had followed this story a little bit more last week and over the weekend, but I'm gonna plead the way that I plead as a Patriots fan. And you know what? You do what you got to do. If you get caught, you pay the consequences. But if you got to live on the edge, you know what? That's why you have officials, and that's why you have all this kind of thing. And if you get caught, you get punished.
Yeah.
It's no different than a hold or an offside or anything like that.
No, there's it's especially at it's the pro level, right? And it is what it is. There's big bucks on the line, and if you think you can pull off one, I mean, Belichick did it with Spygate. He thought that would help. Obviously, it did in that particular year. So it is what it is. I think I would be more concerned. To me, it's pro sport is entertainment, right? Steroids, the whole 9 yards. That stuff never has really fizzed me too much. I don't get too hung up into these arguments and stuff about it. I think I'd be more concerned about actual cheating in minor hockey, minor baseball, all that kind of stuff, because you don't want to be teaching that shit at that level and things like that. But it's going to be interesting how the investigation goes, Bladesy, because our manager Alex Cora was on that team in question. And there's some concern as to whether anything came out last year in the World Series in which the Red Sox won. Was any of that going on there? So it's definitely a story that we probably want to follow a little bit and see what happens. But as we know in these leagues, they tend to protect their own and only allow out just so much to be seen.
Except if it happens to the Patriots.
Except if it has Patriots.
Amen. Amen.
Nobody's really going to care about this anyway. It's only the Astros. Now, if the Red Sox get caught cheating, everybody ESPN will blow up. It'll be the same as the Patriots. But if it's only Houston, nobody's going to care. It's all going to be blown under the rug in about another week. So
small market. There's nobody to talk to about the issue. Nobody's going to care because nationally it won't make no story. But I agree. Anything bigger than those cities, you get into Boston, New York, Chicago, LA, maybe. It definitely becomes more of a story. So, well, gentlemen, we're up on 52 minutes. That pretty much has everything that I have with you guys. Do you guys have something you want to add to it that you wanted to get in this week, or how are you doing?
The only thing I wanted to add, it was interesting today that Antonio Brown has come out and apologized to Robert Kraft and the Patriots, and it's just, I don't know, it's when I see people that are so talented and clearly they've got personal issues that are getting in the way, it's kind of sad, because he was a guy that, man, when we had those tough games with Pittsburgh, even though we more often than not came out on the winning end, he was a guy that I certainly thought, wow, if Brady had him, what could we do? So he's trying to fix things now. We won't see him on an NFL team this year, but if he cleans up his act and proves that he's got his head in the right place, he may still be able to come back and add to a Football Hall of Fame worthy type career.
Well, he certainly has been quiet since that particular event of getting on to Kraft and saying what he says. So I'm thinking somebody's gotten to him a little bit, enough to keep him quiet, because he definitely hasn't been much of anything of newsworthy, which is good. And at the end of the day, as we've said on this topic before, the hope is that Antonio Brown gets his life together as a man. He has children and things like that, and to me, that would be the more important story here, is for him to get cleaned up, that he can, be a father to the kids that he has and stuff like that. So, Blades, you got anything you want to finish up with?
No, can you imagine Oakland, how good they'd be if Antonio Brown was sane? I mean, shit, they're having a great year. If he'd have just kept his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Who knows what they could have done this year, but that's the way it goes. So, but no, I got nothing really, Duke. Thanks, man. It was a good one as always. Hopefully, we could find a night next week that we can all get together.
So how's Wednesday? I know Tuesday doesn't work for either of you. Max out on Monday as well. Wednesday work, gentlemen? No?
Wednesday works
I
for
gotta
me.
check.
Okay.
I gotta
Thanksgiving
check. I think
U.S. Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah.
it should be. I'll check and be sure.
Okay. All right. So we will tentatively have a date for next Wednesday, and I'll make post of that on the page as well. So anyway, gentlemen, have yourself a good rest of the night, and we'll see you again next week.
Go Packers, go!
James. Get eggs out, Mac.
Yeah. Good night, guys.
There we go. So tonight we're gonna take a look at what I call Duke's take. And last week I kind of talked about the whole the whole Don Cherry and things like this. This week I want to talk about the fact hockey community, Canada's last hope. And again, when I do these things, this is my opinion only. It doesn't reflect the views of T-Mac or T-Blades at all. It's just my own thoughts on it. Last week, a lady with a program on CTV, Jess Allen, I think is her name, came out with some pretty strong comments against white boys being bullies and essentially stereotyping these kids in this particular sport and things like that. Also, it came along shortly, a few days after, Don Cherry had been fired. It was kind of the thing of the show called The Social, in which 4 women talk about the events of the day. Personally, I watched that particular segment in question. Can't say it's a show that would garner my interest. Here's the thing. Cherry gets fired by Sportsnet. This lady does not get fired by CTV. I think it's pretty cut and dry why this did not happen. CTV and its TV programming, in my opinion, is generally trying to target, especially in them kind of shows, I think they're trying to target a certain segment of the population, okay? And because they're targeting and they're going after a certain segment of the population, I think the content of that particular show lines up with the ideas, the ideology, and the thinking of the group that they're trying to attract into it. And hence, when the cries were there for her to be fired and it didn't happen, I can't say I was too surprised. Here's the other thing about this. I did not want to see Jess Allen get fired. I wanted to see Don Cherry be reinstated and even maybe an apology given to the man. That's just my view. I am a big advocate for free speech in this country. I really am. And I understand, our Charter of Rights is much different than the Constitution of the United States. There seems to be more leniency with, I forget which amendment it is in the Constitution, but it does allow a lot freer thing of speech. Here in Canada, it has more to do about more to do with expression and things like that. Cherry was fired because, in my opinion, Sportsnet reached out to a broader audience, right? And so when the decision came to can him based on, my opinion, very questionable comment, 2 words that will go down in infamy in this country forever, they decided to axe him. I have my own feelings why I think that happened. Without trying to go too far into detail about it, my big concern, guys and folks, is I do believe that freedom of speech is really under attack in this country. And that's not a good thing, because when you take that away, when people who damned what Don Cherry had to say, I always say we have to be careful, glass houses. When we throw in rocks, remember we all live in glass houses, and at any point in time we all can be, some things going on in our lives that we wouldn't want other people to know, that could get out, and it really makes you look bad, right? Believe me, I've done stupid shit before and been called on it. So it can be a bit embarrassing. But to me, freedom of speech is something that is very precious and something we hold dear, have held dear in this country. And I just see over the course of ever since the election, even the week leading up to the election, that there's just been events, things are happening to put that at a challenge like it's never been before. On my personal page, you'll also see yesterday I posted a video called First They Came for Don Cherry. And I would encourage you to watch that video as a Canadian. The lady who does the talking, it's about 13 minutes in length. It's not an extremely long video, but she is an immigrant in this country from the Middle East. And I've watched other things from her YouTube channel, other content on her. This is a woman of great courage and strength. She's been uttered death threats, from what I understand, for times that she has spoken out in this country about certain matters. And she goes into a bit of depth of talking about what is going to happen, could ultimately happen with the hockey community. I was very surprised at the lack of response. And I've, followed this right through on Twitter, on Facebook, different feeds. And I expected a bigger, the attack on the young boys. I thought there would be a bigger outrage with it. And there really hasn't. And to be honest with you, after listening to this lady and what she was saying, it's very concerning. And I think as Canadians, we need to be concerned. And it's not about fear-mongering or anything like this. But as she said there are way too many people in the West, and I think she characterizes all the West, where people don't want to involve themselves and they don't want to, investigate things or be kept abreast of things if it does not interest them, right? And that's a problem. And we have to be careful if we allow ourselves to get too passive. We are known as a passive nation. It's one of our attractions of how we have learned to make, diversity and culture work. As I mentioned before, I've this past summer started a job at Costco in Northeast Edmonton. And that is as diverse as it gets. And I want to tell you, it's probably one of the best job experiences I've ever had in my life. I have gotten to meet some very, very admirable, inspiring people through the stories that they've told me on how they come to get to Canada. And you always ask them, you're like, well, why did you pick Canada and not the United States? And they're like, we always hear better things about Canada. It's much more free. People mingle better there. And so positive vibes coming out of that, hearing these kind of stories from people from various countries. I mean, where I work there, it's like a mini United Nations, to be honest with you. But all good things. But I've recently talked to a few people who are of the Polish descent. We've been here for about 25 years. And a couple of gentlemen in particular, they lived in Poland through communism and things like that. And they said, you got to be very careful with what's happening in terms of your freedom of speech. Because he said that's where it begins. They slowly take away, those things that you cherish, slowly begin to get eroded out of the picture. And he said, when you lose the right to speak your mind, he said, you better watch out. Because he said, we grew up in that. And we're seeing what happened there beginning to happen here. That's not coming from me. This is coming from people who have moved here 25, 30 years ago because they wanted to get out of that situation, out of that life that they were living back in their country, Poland in this instance. So when I talk about these things, and I won't go too much more or into more in depth because of the platform that I'm on and I share with other people, I bring these things up because I care, right? I care. I still do care about this country. I know there's a lot of talk of separatism, and I can see the validity in separatism in many ways. And unless you live out here and can see what's going on, it would be very hard for you to understand that. You just got to kind of trust me for now. But I do think as much effort as possible to try to, save this country should be attempted. And if you don't think that this country's not in trouble, then I don't know what to say. I really don't. obviously we're seeing things through completely two different sets of lenses. And maybe we need to start looking at each other's point of view a little more and seeing, is there validity in what each is having to say. So, again, just was a little surprised at the lack of response from the hockey community. I thought, there's a lot of things you can bitch and whine about in Canada and get away with, and people won't say too much. But when you start attacking the sport of hockey, which is the national pastime of this country, I thought for sure, that I wouldn't want to be the person that would start that on that kind of platform of CTV television, which is a big platform in this country. I thought for sure we were going to see a lot more outrage, and we didn't, and that's very, very surprising. And I think it's I don't know. I think it's weakening us. It's weakening this country when there's not a bigger backlash in a circumstance like that. I think anything's possible from this point on, and none of it would surprise me. So anyway, that's my take on that. So just want to thank everybody who stayed and watched the show tonight. Thanks to T-Mac and T-Blaze for being on once again. They always do an awesome bang-up job. They make my job that much easier. So thanks again, everybody. See you again next week. We'll announce what night that we're going to be able to do the show, depending on how these guys' schedules go on their end there. So everybody have yourselves a good one, and we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.